Welcome to another episode of PSL On The Mic, the City of Port St. Lucie's official podcast. We're in the studio today with Chad Rucks from the Florida Department of Transportation and Emily Seitter, Port St. Lucie's own from Public Works Department. Welcome, you guys.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Today, we've got FDOT and Public Works. So what do you think we're talking about today? We are talking about mobility and moving Port St. Lucie forward. So before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want you guys to talk a little bit about what you each do at the city and at FDOT. Ladies first.
Sure. I'm a project manager with the CIP, Capital Improvement Planning, and half-cent sales tax project team. So in my role, I oversee projects from inception and planning through to construction and closeout. I work in coordination with DOT, with our partners at the Transportation Planning Organization, and fellow interdepartmental work, as is always the case with the city. I also do serve as our department's agency, responsible charge for the agency, which means I'm the liaison between DOT and the city for projects with our invoicing and some of our communication needs.
So you're the perfect person for us here today.
Happy accidents.
And you got the purple memo to wear a purple shirt today for those of you watching our podcast. Chad?
I missed it.
I'm sorry. I'll make sure to send an email next time you're on. But we do have like an Easter vibe going, so it's kind of cool. So Chad, what do you do over at FDOT?
Yeah, so I'm the construction engineer with the Treasure Coast Operations Center with FDOT. And what my responsibility with Department of Transportation is overseeing the construction program for a 3-county area with Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River County. So we get plans in. I don't do any of the design, but we oversee the construction construction projects as they go. So from project startup through final estimates, which is the closeout process of the project. So we oversee it pretty much whenever everyone else in the community sees it. That's sort of when we oversee it.
Okay, perfect. You guys are the two perfect people for this discussion today. So we get a lot of questions about various road projects going on at any one time in the city. Some are headed by the city, some are headed by FDOT, some are headed by even other organizations. Can you talk a little bit about, each of you, just jump in whenever, about the difference between projects? So, because our residents sometimes, I don't want to say they're confused about it, but they see a lot of stuff going on, and oftentimes we're like, oh, that's an FDOT project. So just maybe explain the difference between those two.
I would maybe kick that off by saying there is a delineation between on-system and off-system roadways. Would you agree?
Right.
And so, for example, in the city of Port St. Lucie, while we maintain the right-of-way and all the roadways in some locations, DOT actually does oversight on others. So US 1, for example.
Right.
The city, we don't maintain that road or some of the connecting intersections. Port St. Lucie Boulevard, for example, from US 1 to the Turnpike is, in fact, a DOT roadway.
That's interesting to know. I don't think a lot of people probably know that.
Right, and it's not necessarily talked about a lot.
Yeah.
There's the impression that it's the city's roads, the cities can do whatever they want.
It's in Port St. Lucie,
but that's really not the case. And we look to make sure that the roadways that maybe aren't currently on system for DOT could become so, and that we're maintaining the infrastructure so that partnership can continue.
Yeah, no, said perfectly. There's ownership, that there's roadways that we own. Like you said, we consider those on-system projects from our perspective. Like I-95 is definitely a state-owned road. But and then we have the off-systems, which we do partner with off-system roadways through different programs in the department. But I would say that's usually the delineation point, as you said, of when it's a city or a county project versus a state project with the Department of Transportation.
Okay. Now Emily, you said something about Prima Vista. That is
So that is divided.
Okay.
So it's St. Lucie West Boulevard is the city's.
Okay.
And then when it transitions to Prima Vista, it becomes an on-system. And I can't speak to exactly the intersection where it transitions. I don't know if you can pull that.
I can't remember.
And when you say on system, that's state.
Yes,
FDOT. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
That's a state roadway. So we have some separation, just like with PSL Boulevard.
Okay. How does FDOT, Chad, prioritize projects in PSL?
Yeah. So there's St. Lucie has a transportation planning organization, the TPO.
TPO, yep.
That's what we call them. So, and that's set up, I think there's 12 voting members on the TPO. I think 4 are St. Lucie County Commissioners, 4 from the city of PSL, 2 from city of Fort Pierce, I think 1 school board member and another community member. So
So it's a big collaboration between a lot of entities.
Right.
In St. Lucie. Okay.
Yeah, and we have leadership that go and meet with the TPO, and we hear projects that are high priority for you guys, or for the citizens as well, and that goes into our planning when we set out our 5-year plan to organize what projects we want to prioritize. We take input not just from St. Lucie TPO, but from various TPOs within our district, but definitely we work with the city of work with the St. Lucie TPO.
And District 4 it's composed of St. Lucie, Martin, Indian River, Okeechobee?
Broward and Palm Beach.
Oh, Broward and Palm Beach. So
Yeah.
Okeechobee's not even listed on there. Okay.
Okeechobee's in District 1.
Okay, and oftentimes FDOT and the city work together on projects. Is there anything, can you talk about maybe that partnership? And also, are there any projects currently going on that we're working together on?
Sure. I would add to what Chad said in that the city can take a project that we may have identified through resident outreach as a priority or as a need, and then we work with the TPO, the Transportation Planning Organization, and their executive director to ensure that if a project should be identified, it can be added to the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Program.
Okay.
That then supplements the list of priority projects and the long-range transportation plan, which is adjusted every 5 years, as Chad mentioned, and that's currently out to 2045. So the TPO maintains sort of a database of projects that have been identified as potential, and then we go through, each municipality goes through and advocates for a specific project that they'd like to get moved up onto the list of priority projects.
And you advocate with is the TPO? Or-
Correct.
Okay.
We will. So staff will go to the TPO and present if we get an item on the agenda.
Okay.
There are multiple subcommittees. There's the TPO board, and then the Bicycle Pedestrian Access Committee, the Technical Advisory Committee, the Citizens Advisory Committee, and each of those committees go through a process to vote for a project for it to be adopted into the list of priority projects. Once it's there, the TPO submits an application to District 4 to make that project grant funding eligible, and then that's where the partnership and the administration of the funds comes into play. Currently, we just submitted an application for a TRIP grant, which is the Transportation Regional Improvement Plan. And
Sounds good.
that I could get a little squirmy in there. We submitted St. Lucie West Boulevard for potential TRIP funding as a way to partner with the DOT on funding and improvements there. So now that was voted for and approved by the TPO and all the necessary boards. That application has recently been submitted to District 4 for review, but as Chad mentioned, it's going to be in competition with any application for that state
Sure.
funding from Broward up to Indian River.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the funding of that whole thing too, Chad?
As far as
I guess just how the money maybe, is it grant funding, or is it just money that's already set aside in like a capital improvement project?
Yeah, and I don't get really too much involved with the funding of future projects. I usually take care of just construction of ones that have already been programmed
Okay.
and in the year. But I know that they do, there's different funding mechanisms, whether
Okay.
it's FHWA, like a federal funding, or state funds, or like you said, working with local or grant funding projects as well.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not.
No,
too
that's
up to
okay.
speed on that
The
aspect
DOT
of it.
works to administer some of the grants that come down from a federal and state level. So recently, state appropriations were determined, and we received planning and development funding for a project that's a state appropriation through federal. That will then be administered to our agency, the City of Port St. Lucie, on a reimbursement basis. So we'll be
Okay.
able to procure the consultant, do the work, request reimbursement from the district, and then we get paid back. So the district serves as the administrator of funds.
Okay, I get it now. while we're talking about funds, actually, can you talk a little bit about the half-cent sales tax projects and,
Sure.
and stuff like that, and how that differs from like a regular funded project?
Yeah, we definitely have a few different pots where our funding exists. We have our mobility funds, impact, and then we have our half-cent sales tax. Half-cent sales tax was a resident-based referendum that allocates funding for specific projects that exist on our 10-year master plan for a number of different things. I personally work on the sidewalk program, so we have a 10-year master plan, and we have an amount that we allocate annually for the construction of that sidewalk. We don't typically partner or collaborate with the DOT on any of
Right.
our half-cent projects. It gives the city some flexibility and some bandwidth in how and when we administer. DOT holds a number of reporting requirements, and so that process can sometimes be elongated. Whereas half-cent sales tax projects, we can really get into it, get in and out in a more expedited fashion. The referendum is going to be coming up again, and with the funding that I've seen in my time here at the city, we've been able to really make some great improvements to the sidewalk infrastructure and other projects. So those, I think the biggest takeaway, though, is that the half-cent projects exist on a council-approved list, and we pull from that based on priority, need, location, staff recommendation, et cetera. When we identify a project that we want to use that funding for, if it's on the list, we're able to move forward. And so currently, I'm working on what could potentially be the next 10-year sidewalk master plan.
Awesome. And what's great about the half-cent sales tax is that the voters voted on that.
Right.
And they wanted to use that money for roads, to protect our waterways, sidewalks, streets.
Right.
It's awesome. Now, to the layperson, it might look like some projects are taking like a little bit longer. Could you maybe explain the process from kind of start to finish, and maybe why there would be a delay in a certain project, any project in general?
Sure. There's several different things that could cause a delay, but I sort of always equate, excuse me, building a roadway is not like building a house.
Right.
That's for sure.
It's more like renting a triplex with 3 different families living in it at the same time. It's a roadway is a living, breathing thing.
Sure.
Really,
They're being used while they're being worked on.
Right. We never build a roadway and say, hey, here's a new roadway here, go ahead and move to it. We've got, traffic to contend with, we've got businesses, we've got pedestrians, and the priorities could, the reason I say the triplex and 3 different families, you could always ask someone what the priority is and you may get different answers.
Sure, yeah.
So, we have to work around traffic, we have to work around pedestrians, we have to work around businesses and make sure that it's not impacting them. So that sometimes that's a challenge is, we have to shift our maintenance of traffic to make sure everything is open and moving while we're constructing. So that could potentially cause a project to be a little bit longer than usual, is trying to move around traffic, pedestrians, businesses, whatever, homeowners. We contend with weather. We live in Florida, and it's not just rain. I think some people are just like, well, it's rain, but sometimes we're impacted by high winds, especially if we're doing projects US 1 or A1A, coming in off the beach.
Sure. Well, and I'm sure that the heat definitely has something to do with it too, the summer heat and humidity.
Wintertime, actually, we do get impacted sometimes with cold weather. With asphalt has to be at a certain temperature, and then I think anyone these last few years with COVID, it's been a little bit of a challenge with supply chain.
Correct.
Sometimes we can't always get the materials we need to construct things. Sometimes you have something planned out and you think you've got it lined up coming on a certain day, only to realize it's been delayed. And that's not just from our contractors. Sometimes utility agencies are faced with the same issue. So all those things, or speaking of utilities, sometimes there's unknown utility delays. Maybe we find a line, that wasn't shown originally in the plans. All these kind of things we see on a day-to-day basis that could impact the overall completion of a project.
Yeah, anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, I like to say that we build everything you see and everything you don't see. And so we coordinate with our utility folks, and like Chad said, there may be a 40-year-old water main that is just slightly off from a design that we need to go in and do a deflection on. And then that's interdepartmental coordination, and then we have the utility department has to get a contractor to do the deflection, et cetera. It may not have been something that was contended with in the design of a project. So there are unknowns, and I think you said it perfectly. A project is a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
On DOT projects, for example, some of that reporting and requirements for reimbursement indicate that we use BABA, Build America, Buy America. So for our steel products, we can only source that from American-based companies.
Oh,
and so there, at times, while it has huge benefit and spurs local economy, we do then sometimes contend with procurement delays or availability. We are nestled so nicely on the Treasure Coast, but we also then don't have the same suppliers that they do in other counties and other district locations. So we are somewhat limited into our providers in what they can bring in to make the project happen. And I think our contractors and our consultants do a really great job at mitigating that. Our community outreach tries to do a great job at communicating that. But again, when you're trying to get to work, do you necessarily stay mindful of the fact that maybe there was a concrete delay? Right. And I'm guilty of that myself. So I try and frame it in a way that I remember there's more going on than what we see in real time.
Right.
Yeah, and right now we have a mobility campaign going on on social media and communications. We're trying to get out as much information that we can to our residents, and being as transparent as we can. Hey guys, listen, this is what's going on. You might want to take an alternate route. And they've been very happy that we've been sharing all of this information with them. And that takes me to my next question is FDOT and the city both always ask for, almost always ask for citizen input on projects that they're doing. Why is that so valuable?
Because we're building for residents.
Yeah.
Because every single thing we do is resident user based. So whether it's our long-term residents, our newcomers, or our visitors to this great city, what we're building, what we're improving is resident-centric. And so without the input, without open, transparent, two-way communication, we are not meeting the overarching goal, which is to build for the people.
Yeah.
And Chad, what do you guys do, Emily as well, what do you do with that information? You have a public meeting, say, 2-hour-long public meeting, you get tons of input and ideas. What do you then do with that?
I'll give an example. It wasn't in the city of Port St. Lucie or St. Lucie County. It was one of the neighboring counties. But we had probably 5-6 years ago, we had a project pretty much designed to be a roundabout at an intersection. And, when we went to have our open house, there was a lot of concerned citizens came out and voiced their desire to have a signalized intersection rather than a roundabout.
Rather than a roundabout, okay.
So, we went and actually redesigned it, and it was constructed to be a signalized intersection, but it was originally planned to be a roundabout. So we try our best to take information from the citizen and incorporate it into the design, to make sure that the end user is happy with what they're getting,
And where can Port St. Lucie residents find more information about FDOT projects?
Yeah, there's a website. It's www.d4dot.com.
Okay, we'll share it with you guys.
Yeah, I had to look at. I couldn't remember it off the top of my head, but if you go to that website, there's actually a link for Treasure Coast Operations Center, and that'll give the projects for the area that I mentioned earlier for Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River County.
Not Okeechobee.
Not Okeechobee County. But if you go to that website, there's a link for Treasure Coast Operations. Click on that link, and it'll give you updates on all of the active jobs currently going on in our residency.
And I think I've been there a few times to get photos and stuff for social media. And there's photos, there's videos, there's actually videos of the citizen public meetings, the resident public meetings too, that really help. What about for the city?
I think that through the work of communications, I think we've recently been doing some great work on our website, correct?
Yep, we are.
And so our website, you can visit each department and stay mindful that it's not just Public Works who are building and working with grants and coordination. But our city website is a great tool. You can find our comprehensive plan. You can find our 5-year CIP plan. You can find our 10-year master sidewalk resurfacing plan. So that's a great tool immediately. I would also recommend visiting the St. Lucie County TPO's website. That's stlucietpo.com.
Okay.
And they have their list of priority projects, so you can see kind of what's in line. Not all of the residents in St. Lucie County live in the city necessarily.
Correct, right.
So it'll help show the projects that are county-based as well. And that gives our residents an opportunity to see what the city's trying to partner with the DOT on. It'll help delineate some of those on and off system roadway projects, and gives a great comprehensive look at what we are identifying now to be a need 10 years from now. Because we're not just building for today, we're building out an infrastructure that can support a network for the next umpteen years with the next umpteen new residents moving in.
And that's what I think, too, is a lot of people might not understand. We're a really young city.
Right.
From Stewart or Fort Pierce or any other city in Florida. We didn't have all of this infrastructure when we were first created back in 1961. So I don't want to say we're trying to play catch up, but we are definitely doing our best to make more sidewalks, and we're growing too.
Right.
So we have to keep that into consideration. What's with all of that put together, what is the biggest takeaway that you want people listening and watching today to take away from the FDOT city relationship and how we're really working to move Port St. Lucie forward?
I would echo my point earlier that what we're building is resident-centric. We have an obligation, of course, to build high-quality infrastructure and facilities. That's one of our strategic goals. It's goal number 5 in our city's strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And taking that as a basis, as the foundation for how we build, the things that we do are for the betterment of our community, of our multimodal users, of our vehicular traffic, of our pedestrian traffic, of our cyclists, of our local economy, and of our partnerships. So I think the biggest takeaway is that we are proactive. We are working to become proactive and not just reactive. To your point, Maureen, we were built as sort of a more bedroom community. We weren't intended to be an economic hub that we, through the great leadership of our elected officials and staff, are becoming. We are there and we are proceeding in that fashion. And so we're working to rectify some of the design that wasn't taken into account at inception of a city, and part of the strongest way we can do that is through partnership and collaboration with our fellow agencies on a state level.
Yeah. Anything you want to add, Chad?
Yeah, our Secretary Perdue, he has what he calls the FDOT compass with 6 priorities, and when you look at that graphically, the center of that compass is communities. Yeah. So he really wants it to be the focus of what we do with our projects. And I'll just end to, I think, one of my favorite projects I've been involved with the city. One of my favorite projects in general, too, I've ever done in my career was the Job Express Terminal off of Gatlin Boulevard. Mm-hmm. And the amount of input from the department side, from the city side, not just planning that, but through the construction with departments within the city. It was sort of an outside of the box idea, that I think really serves the community, and that's just something I wanted to add in there. I thought it was a really good partnership between the state and local level.
I appreciate you bringing that up specifically because it's a testament to our continued effort. We are going to be constructing, we're in the process now of working with DOT and FPL to construct a trail from that Jobs Express terminal south to OL Peacock Senior Park. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure that some of our residents who may not be daily vehicle users have that multimodal full access. And so we're taking something that was done through partnership and continuing that partnership, and then making a connection between the Jobs Express terminal to OL Senior Peacock Peacock Senior Park. Excuse me.
OL
OL
Peacock Senior Park, yes.
Yeah, it comes right off the tongue.
Oh, yeah.
So nice. And so it's just, I really appreciate you bringing that particular project up because one, it was just tremendously constructed and planned, and two, it's able to continue the network, which we're really trying to do, to make connections.
Multimodal. Yep.
To make those connections and give opportunities to users of all background. So
That's
it's a great
awesome.
example.
This was a wonderful conversation. I really hope that our listeners and watchers can take something from this. We've been wanting to do this for a little while, so you guys were perfect for the conversation. And before we close out, we started to do this thing a few months ago, just to get to know our guests a little bit more.
Okay.
And we're not going to use a timer this time, Avi. We're just going to let them finish. Normally, we have like a 30-second timer, which always runs out and has this annoying noise. But we're just going to, I will throw these questions out to you, and then we'll conclude our podcast for today.
Great.
Ladies first again.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Favorite food?
Sushi.
Seafood.
Oh, nice. Okay. Favorite movie?
For comedy, Step Brothers, I got to go some goofy Will Ferrell.
Okay.
Goodfellas.
Ooh, nice. Now I want to watch some movies. Favorite hobbies?
I play a lot of sand volleyball. I like hiking.
Okay.
Outdoor recreation. That's why we live here, right?
Yeah. Fishing. Love to fish.
That's good. You live in Florida. That's great. Favorite singer or favorite band?
Leonard Cohen.
Wow. Okay.
Metallica.
I am loving this. Okay. Favorite book?
It's a book. It's a memoir by Chris Offutt called The Same River Twice.
Okay.
Bleachers by John Grisham.
Nice. Good choices, y'all. Favorite holidays?
4th of July.
Thanksgiving.
I'm with you there. Favorite place to visit or travel?
I loved my ventures out to the far west coast in the redwoods. Give me those trees that are just so big.
I want to go to the Pacific Northwest very soon. Chad?
The Keys.
Okay. To fish.
Yeah.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
I mean, I have to say mint chocolate chip. I know I get a lot of, not everybody loves it, but mint chocolate
I
chip,
like
that's
the
my
mint
cup.
part, the green one, yes.
We're in agreement on that.
Okay.
Mint chocolate chip.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
Mint chocolate chip.
Favorite TV shows?
I like watching Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
Okay. Yeah, that's fun.
I like The Office.
Okay, last one. Favorite color?
Burgundy red.
Ooh, okay, specific.
I was going to say purple. Since
I was going to say maybe Chad's going to say purple.
Since I missed the memo. No, I love blue. The color
Okay,
blue.
blue.
Yeah.
Awesome. I hope you guys had fun.
You did. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Emily, Chad, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge about getting Port St. Lucie moving forward. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Good. All right, thank you.